Okay, so with understanding our bank accounts, part of what this wants us to know is we just have to have an understanding of some of the financial services. Like I said, a lot of this stuff isn't going to be a shock to anyone, but it's just going to be. Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought you said something. Sorry. But it's just going to be kind of priming us for some of the more complicated stuff. We are eventually going to be looking at interest and stuff like that, and that's going to eventually lead into the next block where we're actually looking at, like real world applications of this, like actually like applying for mortgages and car loans and stuff like that, and like retirement plans and how they all work. So it is quite important for us to be able to use. So again, none of this should really be that new for us. If you go to a bank account, usually you have two types of bank accounts that you can get access to. There's more, but the big two are, yeah, checking and savings, right? Usually, if you have a bank account, you have both those things. And does anyone here get mailed bank statements or like credit card statements? Yeah. I still get mailed the credit card ones. Yeah. And so like there's usually a couple things on there. If you ever like I'm gonna be honest, like this is not a good habit. I don't review it all like every single time. I try to, but we're all human. But if you do review it, which you should,
It's pretty much the same stuff.
yes.
I do get that lazy.
You're kind of just looking for like what? I never spent that money. So when you're looking at these, what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for fees, you're looking for interest. You're looking at transactions that happen, right? If I go to the co-op and I fill up my car, well, that's a transaction. Like I use tap for everything. I should probably use cash more. And then we also usually look at minimum balances. This is less of an issue in Canada, but in the States, minimum balances are a real thing that they really need to worry about. If you dip below a certain amount of money in your bank account, they fine you. It's literally like you don't have a lot of money. We're going to fine you now to be able to use the rest of your money. Yeah, it's like a poor tax. It's insane. Yeah.
They show that here, but I don't think they charge for anything.
If you go into the negatives, like if you overdraft, you can. Yeah.
I'm assuming you're eating from they have money in their account, but it's low balance.
Yeah, like maybe like some banks in the States, you need to have $1,000 in your account. So if you have $900 in your account, you're below that minimum balance, they're going to charge you like $50 or something. It's a lot less of a problem in Canada. So we don't really like need to worry too much about that, but it does exist, and we're going to be looking at problems with that. So those are the 4 different things we look at in our accounts. Now, the bank offers a bunch of different services, right? Most of us use 2 primary things. One of them is an ATM, right? If you need cash, where do you go? Usually you go to the ATM. And what can the ATM give you? Well, we know that it can withdraw and it can deposit money. And it also works with checks. You can do it with checks as well. You can go to ATMs, you can actually pay bills with them in some of them. You can actually transfer money with them. If you have a credit card with a bank, like maybe what banks are in town here? Is it Scotiabank?
CIBC, RBC, and Crossing Credit Union.
Yeah, okay. Like so I use a credit union. Oh yeah.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, credit unions are Connexus is a type of credit union. Yeah.
So that's why if you have to credit union things.
Kinda, yeah. I'm not as familiar with like the full differences between them.
Yeah, because I know my grandma has every connected for credit union kind of thing she can go to. But she has like awkward television.
Yeah, I could see that. That probably makes sense. And then you can also check your balance there, right? Those are the primary things you can do with ATMs. So I'll give you a second just to catch up there. Again, none of this is like new to us, right? This is all information we know. Gonna scroll down a little bit. So none of that is really new to us, right? We know what ATMs can do. It's one of the services that a bank provides. Usually, a lot of places some places you have to pay an annual fee to use the bank, which pays for these services. Now, most people, however, have online banking though, right? So your cell phone can do all of this. I don't really go to ATMs and banks much anymore because your phone can do all of those things. That's how I pay my bills. That's how I deposit my checks, right? Is that how everyone here does it? Yeah. So your phone can do all of that, including just online banking. So then why do we need bank tellers?
If there's a problem.
Yeah, so the bank teller can do all of these things, but more specifically, they work we usually go to them if like there's some type of an issue. So one of the things that the bank tellers help with is they help you with problem solving or planning. I can't do that on an ATM. What else can I do with a teller that I can't do? Yeah, so you could apply for like a line of credit or like,
Credit as well.
yeah, so they can help you like plan for like financial future and stuff. Yeah, so they'll help you problem solve, they'll help you plan. A couple other things they do as well. Like if I'm buying a car and I don't have checks, you have to use cash, right? Well, let's imagine I've saved up like, oh, there's a $3,000 car in marketplace. I'm going to go buy that. ATM's not going to let you take out $3,000, right? So you have to usually go to a teller for making large withdrawals.
And transfer.
And and transfers, like large transfers, yeah.
If you're trying to transfer you have to go to
Right. And part of it's a security thing, right? Like we all probably know an older person in our life who has almost or has fallen for a scam. So like that's part of their job is to like, this seems a little weird. One thing as well is they can also do currency exchange, right? If you're going to the trip to the States, you need American dollars because cash is king there. Stuff is literally cheaper in the States if you pay with cash.
I'm debatable about that.
But with like the cash is king thing?
Yeah, because it's like from the currency exchange, right? And how much out every dollar averages worth compared to theirs.
Mhm.
That's why I'm on the fence because if you compare both prices and you get them, you might actually skip the taxes from the Canadian side, which makes it more affordable if you were to buy it in America.
Oh, but I mean, if you go to America, like let's say you go to like a grocery store, like if you're going to use like a credit card, they'll charge you like an extra 2% more or something in some cases. Like sometimes like gas is like, I don't know why, like gas is like gas stations, the gas itself is cheaper if you pay cash. I'm like,
Yeah.
I get it if you're trying to sell something. Like if my buddy helps me like with my fence, I'm going to pay him cash because he's just not going to claim it, right? He's not going to pay tax on that. But like it's gas, they have to pay tax on that. Like that's tracked. So I don't know why they do it, but they do.
Do they usually take like a percentage of it as well? Like you said, they take that 2% thing out, but when you're getting money, don't they still?
Oh, the currents, yes, they will take a little bit of off the top, yeah, for doing that service. So like you're not going to get a perfect, translation. They're going to take a little bit of that for providing that
It's
service.
cheaper in your own country currency for money. To that country.
Yeah, usually, yeah.
Oh, in my experience, it always has.
Don't do it at the airport. Just go to the bank, plan it in advance. Like if you're going to the States in like a month, like call your bank now and be like, hey, I need this much. That way they can get it in time. But yeah, so these are all things that banks offer, right? Again, none of this is like world shattering. It's just information we kind of need to know. We need to go through. It's going to be useful here shortly. And again, to use an ATM, we usually know that we need a card and we need a PIN, right? Nothing world shattering here. This is all information we are aware of. Now, where this comes into place though, has anyone here ever like swapped banks at some point in their life? Oh, everyone here has. Most people are like, nope, still with the one I was like, the first one I got. if you ever swap banks, usually like, hey, I'm from the credit union, you're going into CIBC, I want to open an account. What do they usually do? Here's a pamphlet with like 5 different accounts, right? Which one do you want? So that's an important skill to kind of have here. So if we're looking at something like this, if you go into the Assiniboine Credit Union and you want to open a new account here, whether it's for you or like maybe it's for your kid or swapping accounts or whatever reason, this is the type of stuff that you're given here. You're going to be given a brochure that's going to have a list of all the things it offers. And what do you have to do? You have to read it. You have to make sense of it. So that's literally what we're going to do. So we have an example problem here where we just have a random person who so this is what they do, right? Think about your spending habits. I just said, what do? Every time I go somewhere to buy, I tap. So me personally, tap's really important. And not only that, with some banks or some accounts, you only get a couple of those a month, right? I remember when I was a teenager, right when I went from a teenager to like, I think it was like 16 or something, like something changed with my bank account. And I used to always just like, I had everything in my savings account. So I would now go to like all these stores, use my debit card with savings account. I'm paying like $1 every single time I did that.
That's the same thing with e-transfers too.
Yeah. Yeah. So you need to really think about the habits, right? This person here, they're saying they use their debit card 20 times a month. They also go to the ATM 4 times. And they do a couple of deposits and a couple transfers, right? You think about your use history, like what do I actually use my bank for? How do I interact with money? And you pick the best one for you. So this person's account balance also dips below $1,000. This is not very common in Canada, but I like throwing it in here just as a little bit of a curveball here. Like it's nice to think about that. So basically, if this person goes to this Assiniboine Credit Union, they're going to get charged monthly bank fees. Obviously, what you probably want to pick is the one that's going to be cheapest for your uses, right? So we have these 3 different examples here that we can use. We have I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I have this is the Assiniboine Credit Union Lite. They have the active and they have the digital for all of the different uses here. So what is this person going to get like charged money for in a bank account typically?
What was that?
So if this person here goes to a bank account, and if we're looking at this like brochure, what are the things here that could potentially cost them money every month? Because these are all monthly fees and stuff on here, or like cost of service fees. Potentially, but so they all have monthly fees. It starts at $3 and then it eventually works its way up to 10. They all have minimum balances that you need to maintain. If you don't maintain those minimum balances, you might get charged extra for some of these services here. They all have descriptions here. We'll go through that in a second. But basically, you get charged for how you use your bank and how you use the features with that. Like I said, it's largely not a Canadian problem, but it's nice to still know. So what we're going to do is our goal here is we want to find which of these 3 is going to be the cheapest for her. So what we need to do is we need to actually go in here and we need to look at what's going to all cost this person money. Specifically, we know their use history, right? We know that they are going to have a monthly fee no matter what. We know they have a minimum balance of $1,000. So all I'm doing is I'm putting a little slash here beside the things that they do. We know that they use the 4 ATM withdrawals. So I'm and 20 debit transactions. So all I'm doing is I'm just going in here. And I'm just quickly ticking off the things I know this person does. Because I don't care about a pre-authorized debit, right? Like they don't really care much about that because it's not something in their uses history. So I'm just finding the things that are important to them. So they use 20 debit transactions, 4 deposits, 3 transfers. Here's our transfer here in the full serve part. And they do deposits. And that is about everything. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. But so there should be 1, 2, 3, 4. There should be 5 things ticked off in total here, right? Those are all the different services that this person uses.
And then that inter account transfers, that's just like a, they're called interact transfers, right? So that's just like an e-transfer, right?
Yeah, basically like e-transfers, yeah.
They're called that inter. E-transfer.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so so let's kind of go through some of this stuff here then. So I know that I have a total of 6 different things, right? I have, or well, we have transactions, 1, ATMs, 2, 3, 4. And there'll be a monthly fee as well. So, and then as well as the other balance. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly go to the next page. I'm just going to write that information down, right? What I'm going to eventually do here is I'm going to make a table. I'm going to make that a little bit neater. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to compare the 3 services that are offered here. And so what is it? It's the light, the active, and the digital. We have our monthly fee. We also know that we're going to have the cost to use the debit transactions. So I'm just going to put debit for that. We have the fees, we have the debit costs. We have the ATM withdrawal. I'm just going to specify that. We know that this person does deposits. We also know that they transfer. So basically what our plan is, we're going to figure out, okay, we know what this person does every month. Let's figure out how much each plan is going to cost her and then just pick the cheapest one, right? That seems to make sense. So all I'm going to eventually do is I'm just going to take all these, I'm going to total them up. So all I'm doing is I'm turning this into a nice table here. Okay. So we know that these are all things that this person uses quite regularly, right? So all we want to do is we just want to figure out how much are each of these things going to cost. To do that, what do I need to use? I need to use my brochure. So we'll be flipping a lot back and forth here. I'm just kind of going to do that. You're welcome to stay on that if you want, on your page if you want. But first off, we know this person is going to look at these three things. So we're going to look at the monthly three. It's $3, $7, and $10. And I'm just going to quickly read this description here. So if this person keeps their balance at a minimum of 1,000, this monthly fee is waived for the light. Now, that said, sometimes their balance dips below 1,000, so all of these are actually kind of like null. So there's not going to be any of the benefits from either of those because of that. So I'm just going to put those monthly threes in. I know that this one here was, the light was $3. For the active, was it 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the digital's 10. Oops. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to figure out how much is this person's debit history going to cost them. We know they use 20 they use 20 debit card transactions every month. So we just want to look in here for how much that's going to cost. So for the light plan, it's $50 per purchase. For the active one, it's $50 per purchase. And for the digital one, it's free. 50 cents. Thank you. Yeah, $50 per, oh my God. So
It'd be mad expensive.
yeah, that'd be insane. So we don't, not hard math. If it costs 50 cents every time she uses your card and she uses it 20 times, it's going to cost $10. But we know the digital one, you get free unlimited uses. So that one dips down to $0. So now if we're looking at the ATM withdrawals, I'm just going to zoom in again here. Sorry, so it's 10, 10, and $0 for debit. So if I'm looking at ATM withdrawals now, I'm just going to zoom in. How many did they use then? She uses 4 ATM withdrawals. So it's 50 cents for all of these.
It does it deposits, not the.
Sorry?
Oh no, she makes 4 deposits and.
Yeah. And so you're going to notice here, there's a couple of withdrawals. And so it's important to note that this person is using their ATM to withdraw. So it's the 50-cent one and not this one. Yeah. So in this case, it's the 50 cents one. And same thing, it goes 50 cents, and then free. So far the digital is kind of looking like a little bit of a winner here because for what this person uses, so she uses it 4 times, it's 50 cents, not hard math, $2 a month, right? For this person's withdrawals. But this digital one is again $0. So next we're looking at these ATM deposits here. So I'm just going to find those deposits. Oh, here we go. So we can see that across the board, those deposits just seem to be free, which makes sense, right? Why would the bank like charge you money for giving them more? So right across the board, deposits 0, 0, 0.
Okay, Matt, where is that, deposits here on?
That would be right here in the full serve part.
Okay. Actually, that'd be really. Well, excuse me, that'd be really stupid though, if, you have to deposit. If you have to give money, get like, deposit money, right? Like if you have to, say you had a check, right?
Yeah.
$0, But you have to give money, so you get deposit that said money that you do technically own, even if it's not cash yet, right? That'd be so stupid to get a deposit money to do that, because some banks probably would be. You have to deposit the money first, then the cash you check. Right?
Yeah, so if you go to a bank that's not your own, sometimes they do charge like a, you know, a couple dollar fee.
In that sense, they do that, but. It's a whole slew of. stuff.
There's all these hidden things, yes, yes. And so that annoys everyone. So most banks just want you to bank with them and not have to deal. They don't want you to swap banks. So what do most banks in Canada do? I don't pay a monthly fee for any of this stuff, right?
Yeah, no, that's like, stay with me your whole life.
Basically, yes. Yeah. So it's not a problem we get a lot, but it's still something. This is a skill that's more finely tuned to credit cards, frankly, if anything. And so our final thing here was just transfers. This person also does 3 transfers, which we found out was where? Where are the transfers?
Is it the 70 cents one?
Oh, yes, here it is. Okay. Yeah, those, so 70 cents, 70 cents, and $1. She does 3 of them. Again, not hard math. 70 cents times 3, $2.10. Another $2.10, and then $1 times 3 is just $3, right? So perfect. All I really have to do now is I just have to add these up. So if I'm going through this light, 3 plus 10 plus 2 plus another 210, that's going to give you $17.10 for the light. The active is going to be 17, 19, 20, 21, 10. And the digital one, which has the highest monthly fee, only ends up costing this person $13 a month. So in reality, which of the 3 plans is this person best off using?
Digital.
Yeah, the digital one, right? It's just the cheapest one for their uses. Even though it has the most expensive monthly cost, it's the one that works the best. Come on, computer. So like that's about it, right? Like there's this other stuff. Everyone has that down? No, some people's writing.
Have you heard of it? It's called, but it's not. What state is it? Is it Utah? There's a state and, yeah, one of the states, the entirety of the human population could fit inside that state.
I think it's just like New York, probably.
It could be New York as well, yeah.
Yeah, they like yeah, with the right density, yeah.
Have
Okay.
you ever seen one of those videos of people going around the globe, like where all the lights are in the cities and all that? Like, they say our world is very lit, and I put those quotation marks, because actually, when you look at it, it's only like, it's hot spots really, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
hot spots, huge amounts of population, but besides that, our world is really dark, like, if you look around the whole world.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's actually really dark.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um. So we're just gonna, do I want to do this? I don't know if I do. Yeah, we're gonna skip it. I think we're okay here. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna give you guys like honestly a half hour, not a lot of time, just to kind of work on the practice questions, which is page 8 and onward here, just for some of this stuff. So all of those use this table here. So all those questions down below are going to use that table. That's mentioned here. I'm only going to give you guys a half hour for that, just to kind of try out some of this stuff. A lot of it's just kind of like, you know, tracking, oh, what does this person do each month? How much does that cost? Let's add it all up. And then we'll actually jump into the interest part of it after that. So I'll give you guys about a half hour for that, just to practice this stuff before we kind of move on here. Pause this. So we're going to be dealing with interest here. We might end up at compound, probably not. That'll probably be more of a tomorrow thing. But interest. So basically, the concept's pretty simple, right? When we deposit money into an account, you're going to earn interest, right? If I put $1,000 into my savings account and my savings account has 1% interest, I'm gonna earn $10 that year just from letting it sit there. Right? By me putting it there, the bank's able to loan that money out to someone else, and they pay me a little bit for, you know, doing that for them, basically, giving them some money to lend out to other people. When banks lend money, they want to earn interest, right? They're taking a risk by lending you money for a car, for a house, for a whatever you want, that maybe you're not going to pay it back, maybe for like, or something else happens or whatever. So they want to earn something on that investment, right? And the opposite's true. If I want to borrow money, if I want to buy a car and I don't have enough, I have to go borrow money. Why would the bank want to give me money? Well, because I'm willing to pay more back to them for that privilege. So when you borrow money, you have to pay the interest. And interest is on everything, right? It's on loans, it's on credit cards, it's on everything, really. So interest is really just compensation paid to the lender for use of their money. In exchange for giving me some of their money now, I'm going to give them more back later, right? None of that's new to us. We have a pretty good idea what interest is. But interest can kind of do some really funny things. You know, we've talked a lot about how right now the biggest issue for a lot of Canadians is the cost of living, cost of houses, right? And the Bank of Canada is, you know, they're raising their interest rate to try and like raising or lower their interest rates to influence our economy. And how those small numbers, like, you know, it went from like 2% to like 5% over the last like few years. You know, that's only 3% difference, right? Well, that has huge consequences. So we're gonna be learning how that actually works. And we're going to start off with simple interest with that. So for simple interest, we have three main terms here. This is what we're going to be using all the way throughout. So let's imagine I need to buy a car. What's an easy number?
1,500.
Sorry?
1,500.
I'm just gonna go 1,000, even easier. I'm gonna go $1,000. So let's imagine I'm borrowing $1,000 to buy a car. So the principal is the original amount invested or borrowed. In this case, I'm gonna borrow $1,000 to buy a car. So the principal is how much money you originally took out. Now, obviously, by the time I finish paying back the loan for $1,000, I'm gonna have to pay more, right? Maybe I've paid $1,100 or something like that. In which case, over a year, that's simple interest. So simple interest is the interest calculated as a percentage of the principal. So we're bringing back those percentages. Now, if I pay back $1,100, I have paid 10% in interest. And then we also have the term. Does anyone here know how long, like how long a mortgage usually lasts?
30 years.
Usually 25 years. Yeah, that tends. It does depend. The most common one is 25 years.
But most, yeah, normally
Yeah,
I wouldn't say, say. Because most people's mortgages, if you're talking about high income rates, they start off at like 20 years. But if it was more of someone with my grandmother's rate, there would have been 25 and 30 years time for like a mortgage.
yeah.
It depends on your income. But
It depends on a couple things, yeah. Like the most popular one today is probably the 25-year, but basically, but it's just an example. The term is just, it's the length of time, and this is really important in years for an investment or loan. Now, this in years part is really, really important. If I take out a loan for 6 months, it is a half of a year, right? That's what's going to be a really important thing to know, is that when we're taking out a loan, the term is always in years for everything we're really going to be looking at.
even like a term, that could be reference to like a company's term of employment. Even.
Yeah.
What term would be reference to? Well.
Yeah. And in this case, it's talking about the length of the time of the loan. I'll give you just a second there just to get that stuff written down.
So like some companies, some schools, sure, they might be the one doing the grant. But that's their term, right? And then after that's done, it's another company comes on for, well, whatever, upon that, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that means.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into this here then. So we have two formula here. You don't need to memorize these. These are going to be given to you. So you don't need to memorize these, but you have two different formula here. Now, the one thing you are going to need to know though is, well, what does the A mean? What does the P mean? You know, what does the I mean? Stuff like that. So the formulas are given to you, but you have to be able to know that, oh, I means the interest that's earned. You know, P is the principal, R is the annual interest rate expressed as a decimal. Really important fact there. And then T is the term of the investment loan, and we always express the term in years. So if you want to figure out how much interest something has accumulated, how much interest the loan is going to acquire, we have this formula for it. So I equals P times R times T. So just as an example, with this stuff up here, with this $1,000 car loan, right? 10% interest over a year. If I want to know how much interest is accrued on this thing, how much is this going to cost me? For this $1,000 to buy my car now, how much is that going to cost me overall? Well, I just take those three numbers, right? What was my principal again? It's $1,000. And then what's my interest rate that I said I was going to borrow? 10%. Now, but I have to express that as a decimal. 10% as a decimal is 0.1. And then how many years did I say I was going to take out for the loan? I just said 1 year. Yeah. So $1,000 times, so 10% as a decimal is 0.1 times 1. If I just punch all those in my calculator, 1,000 times 0.1 times 1, it's going to get $100. So I will pay an extra $100 in interest to borrow this loan. So how much am I paying in total for this car? $1,100, right? Principal plus the interest, that gives you the total amount. Which is where this next formula here comes in. This is technically an investment, right? So A is the final value of the investment. So the final value of this investment, of me getting this car, was the principal, $1,000, plus the interest, which was $100. So again, not too difficult stuff. You do not need to memorize those formulas. The only thing you need to know is you're going to need to know what each of them mean. And I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be able to look at these things and you'll just know. Like even with a little bit of exposure, like, oh, he needs the principal. The one that usually tends to give the most people difficulty is the A. That's the one that tends to give people the most struggles, because like, well, P needs principal, I needs interest, right? We don't have that same, what you call it, it doesn't start with the same letter. So that's why that one tends to be the bigger curveball. So in this case, A stands for the investment. So let's try this out. Everyone has that down? So let's try this out here. So nice, easy example. So if we have Gordon, he wants to invest $2,000. And he offers an investment option that earns a simple interest rate at 1.75% per year. So he wants to know how much interest he's going to earn at either 1 year or at 2 years. So right away, what is this actually asking? It wants to know how much interest is he going to earn. Oh, if it's interest, I need this one. So I equals PRT. So for question A, I equals P, which stands for the principal, times the R, which is the rate, and times the T, which is the term. Yeah. Principal times rate times term. Again, mathematicians are lazy. There's a little invisible time symbol in there, right? So what was my principal of this? 2,000, right? Just because principal doesn't only exist when you take out a loan, it also works when you submit an investment, right? Everyone knows Bitcoin nowadays, right? If maybe you invested like, I don't even know what it's at right now, like how many tens of thousands, but like if you, sorry? Well, yeah, but like how much a single Bitcoin is.
It's probably like 2,000. Because I have 3 Bitcoin and I have near.
But so like, like back in the day, like those Bitcoins were like, cents, like $1, stuff like that. So if I bought 5 Bitcoins at $1 and now they're worth $1,000 or whatever it is, my principal is quite low. So your principal works for not only loans, but also when you invest money as well. So in this case, what's Gordon's principal here? 2,000, right? $2,000, nice and easy. Now, what's his interest rate? Now I need to always turn the interest rate into a decimal. It's not times 1.75. Yeah, it's gonna be 0.175. And if you're ever, or sorry, 0.0175. If you're ever unsure, you can convert a percentage into a decimal by just dividing it by 100. So 0.0175. So if you're ever unsure, you can just take that percentage, divide it by 100. That's going to give you the decimal figure. And then question A asks, well, how much is he going to earn in 1 year? Yeah, so I'm just going to do 1 year, right? So if I put that all in my calculator, 2000 times 0.0175 times 1, it's going to be 35 bucks. So that's how much interest he's earned here. So how much interest will he earn in 2 years then? 70. Yeah, I don't even need to do a full calculation again. So this is where simple interest is simple. Banks use a lot more complicated way for this because technically now his principal is after a second year, it's gonna, or at the start of the second year, it's going to be $2,035. It's going to be a little bit more, but that's a lot of work to calculate, right? So what a lot of institutions do is, especially for short loans, well, we'll just do simple interest rates. Because then I can just do 35. Well, 35 the first year, another 35 the second year. Boom, it's $70. So if this is the first year, the second year, B is just going to be, well, there's 2 years, right? If there's 2 years, why don't I just $35? He's getting $35 of interest per year times 2 years is going to give me 70. That's why it's called simple interest, because it's calculated in a very simple way. When we end up at compound, which is probably going to be tomorrow, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. And that's it. That's the whole question. Write that down. Okay. So we'll do one more here with simple interest. So the next one here is if you are asked to invest $5,000 in an account that offers simple interest, we want to calculate how much the investment will be worth at the end. So that's our goal, right? I want to know how much is the investment going to be worth. And then we have two different terms here. So right away, which of these two formulas am I using?
Both of them?
Well, in this case, I just want to figure out what the investment is right now.
A equals B plus I.
Yeah, A equals P plus I, because that's my ultimate goal, right? Is I have an investment, I want to find out how much it's going to be worth. That's what I'm going to need to use. And what do I need to find my investment? I need the principal and the interest. Do I have the principal here? Do I have the interest?
Yes.
Not really. I can find the interest, but it doesn't actually tell me, yeah, and he's going to earn this much interest at it. So I need to actually do both of them. So you're right. I do have to do both.
What is the principal?
So the principal is how much money is initially used. So he's investing $5,000. So this is going to be my principal here.
And that's what you mean by initially used, like fees?
Yeah, so he's given them $5,000 for a couple years, and that's the principal. We want to know how much he's going to gain out of it at the end, though. Yeah, you don't want to give people money for free, right? Like, what's in it for me?
So this is like investment.
This is investment, yeah. So I am eventually going to have to use this A equals P plus I, right? Principal plus the interest. The only issue here is I don't know what this interest is. It doesn't tell me. So what do I need to do? I need to find it. How do I find interest again?
ERT.
I equals PRT, yeah. So this A equals P plus I, sorry,
Again, what is that here? Like,
The-
R.
PRT, so the P is the principal, the R is the interest rate as a decimal. And the T is the how many years the investment's for. Yeah. So I'm gonna find the interest rate now of question A. So I already know that, oh, my interest rate is P times R times T, right? My principal was. Oops. $5,000. Now, what's the rate? The interest rate for question A? Yeah, 3%. Now, yeah, I can't just put 3 in there. Get out of there. Oops. I can't just put 3 in there. So I need to take 3, turn it into a decimal form. So yeah, 0.03. And then how many years is this for?
2.
2. So 5,000 times 0.03 times 2. Now, again, you're gonna, if you forget to like change that decimal there, you're gonna notice really quickly, right? Like the answer here is not $30,000. You'll be able to like look at this, be like, that doesn't make sense. Over 2 years, he turned 5 grand into 30 grand. How did he do that? So in reality, the interest gains are usually pretty small, right? So 0.03 times 2. So the interest he's gained over this loan is $300. But remember, that's not what I ultimately wanted to find out. What I ultimately wanted to find out is how much that investment's worth, which is using this formula here. Do I know what the principal is? I do. Yeah, 5,000. And now I know what the interest is. So all I now have to do is just add these up, right? A equals, you wouldn't have to put this form. I'm not gonna like deduct you any mark here if you don't put the blank formula in this case. You've done all the hard work. My principal I know is $5,000 and my interest I know is 300. So his total investment after 2 years at 3% interest rate is $5,300, right? I underline the important stuff and I circle the final answer. So not too tricky. I'll give you a minute here. Just try out question B. And if you want, you can try out question C as well. Question C is a little bit of a twist. So I'll give you a minute to try out question B and question C.
Amen. I get the interest.
And so, yeah, for question B, it follows the same format, just slightly like, different numbers where we still want to know what his overall investment is. And to do that, I need to find that interest. So all I'm doing is I'm going into this, plugging my numbers in, $5,000 at a 3.75% interest, which if you divide that to turn a percentage into an interest, I need to divide that by 100. So 0.375, that's where I get that number from, times a total of 4 years. If I do that, I should get 5,000 times 0.375 times 4, $750. So that's the overall interest. But remember, to figure out my investment, I take how much money I put in, my principal, so $5,000, and I add on that interest. And overall, his investment now would be worth $5,750. Now, my question for you for question C is what's different about question C? It's asking for months, not years, but we always express the term, the length of it in years. So what do I have to do? I have to turn these months into some amount of years is what I'm gonna have to do here. Because if you just take this, oh, well, I'll just set it up here. I equals PRT, still a $5,000 principal, times 1.75. I can't just go times 15 because that's supposed to be 15 years. So how am I going to do this? Well, let's think about it this way. I have 15 months, right? It's 15 over 12. This is 1.25 years. So all I need to do, if I want to turn months into years, I just got to divide it by how many months are in a year. 12. What if this was 15 weeks instead? How could I figure that out?
7 times 15.
It'd be, well, so it'd be 15. So if I'm saying, hey, it's 15 weeks, there's 15 weeks. How many weeks are in a year?
56.
52. Yeah. What if I said 15 days? Well, I take 15 days. How many days are in a year? 365. Oh, that's supposed to be divided. So so that's how we end up doing it. We just take how long is it, divide it by however many parts of that are for a year, because then that turns it into the amount of years. So 15 months is the same thing as, yeah, 1.25 years. Yeah. Yeah, 1 1/4 also works. I'm gonna keep it as a decimal, just keep it because I can't really do fractions very nicely on here. So for me, it's just gonna be neat. But so now I've converted everything properly. Now all I need to do is just, now it's in a format we know how to solve, right? 0.0175. Now it's going to be $109, 0.375. There's another complicating factor, right? We only go down as much as a penny. So if we would round this up, right? This would have actually be not 37.5 cents. This would be 38 cents, right? And then just like before, all I do is I take my $5,000 and I add on my interest, which is $109.38. And I'm going to get $5,109.38 as my final investment. So the curveball there, of course, is obviously you have to round up the cents. And then also the months have to get turned into years. It does not matter how long the loan is for. It is always for it's always expressed as a year. If you take out a 1-day loan, that's going to be a 1/365 term or some really weird decimal. So fractions might actually be our friend in this case. So we got 20 minutes here. I'm going to give you guys some time to be able to practice the rest of these questions here. We'll deal with compound interest tomorrow. So you got the next 20 minutes here just to work on these next 2 pages.